Leonie sounds so much classier when she curses than I do. You know, the day just keeps getting better and better. And now, speaking of building empathy into our technology, how exactly do we do that? And how exactly do we get outside of this echo chamber? Generative AI will change the way we get information. It's faster, it's better, but it hallucinates. It uses info from the echo chamber and must include our credit union values as a foundation. So let's welcome to the stage George Estrada from AWS. We have Kevin Martin from SchoolsFirst Federal Credit Union. Or one in. Paul James from Kinecta. And Chad Ritchie from Ventura County Credit Union.
Good morning, everyone. George Estrada here with AWS. I am the strategic advisor assigned to the credit union team, and I have the pleasure of joining a group of gentlemen, and we're missing the rest of the team. But we got together last year with Sue and the Underground to discuss generative AI and what it meant or means to the credit union space. Panel before us was talking about trust. You know, Andy Jassy, the CEO for AWS, for Amazon now, was being interviewed about generative AI and what it means and what was going on. And he made a comment that I really love and I want to share with everyone. He said, right now, everyone is focused on the hype cycle, and he wants AWS to focus on the substance cycle. I think this piece of work that we put together towards the end of last year is an effort in that direction, right? What does this mean? And I'm going to give you a little story about hype and how we all get caught up in our own echo chambers. I love to grill. About 5-6 years ago, I bought a green egg, and I was just going nuts. If you know what the green egg is, I was going nuts. I was driving my family nuts. I get the green egg, I put it together, I got the green egg cookbook, and I am cooking everything on the green egg. Love the book. I figured out it's like, if you ever go and eat steaks with me, I love my steaks Pittsburgh style. So charred on the outside, rare on the inside. You could bring that green egg up to about 700-800 degrees. So I was excited. I'm like revving it up. I got a tomahawk, and I opened it. And when I opened it, I burned all the hairs on my arm, my eyebrows, because you're supposed to burp it, right? You're supposed to lift it up, let the air come out, and then open it. I still made the steak, and I still ate it. I wouldn't go in because my kids started laughing when they saw I had no eyebrows. But I got caught up in the hype cycle of the green egg. I didn't do my research. I got the book, and everything is circular, right? It's like this, the echo chamber, right? This is great, but it's not really walking. And so I went afterwards on one of the grapevines that we have out there, YouTube, and I started going in, and you know, sure enough, there's somebody who got burned, and he's like, hey, make sure you burp it, right? And you start learning a little bit more. Why do I bring that up? It's because right now we are in the hype cycle. There's a lot of, generative AI has captured our imagination, but there's a lot of cautionary tales already popping up. There's a lot of questions we need to ask. The generative AI white paper was incredible because of that. I learned working with these folks so much just about how do we incorporate the values. And remember, it's a tool. You know, the green egg is a tool. It's not going to replace the range. It's not going to replace the microwave. It's not going to replace a lot of things. And generative AI, even though we're being told it's going to replace everything, it's, you know, the cycle's going to come back down and level off, and we'll see where it is. But the most important thing about all these technologies is, what do they do to our core values? We don't need to know how to program AI, but we should know what we want it to do. And that was really pressing on the working group and the conversations we have. So what I like to do is find out, you know, it's been 4 months since we published the paper. What have you been hearing in the grapevines, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, the news, that's outside of the actual cycle that we're engaged in, and what is it telling you based on the work we did and what's ahead as far as the work that we need? So.
Thank you, George. Good morning, everyone. I do want to focus on that point of it's just a tool. It is just a computer that somebody programmed and is predicting the next word. That's basically what it's doing. And in this process, don't start with the technology. As always, as you should, start with your member first. Understand what the member challenges you're facing, the conversation around journeys that was just had. What journeys are difficult? I think the not happy path was mentioned. Can these tools, that's all it is a tool, help you with the not happy path? That's how we've been approaching this at SchoolsFirst. We have a strategy that we call the test and learn strategy. Now, if you're anything like us, then you want everything to be perfect before a member ever touches it. That's nervous energy getting released through laughter. And so we spent the last few years creating what we call a discovery portfolio. It's a place where it's okay to fail. You try something new, you learn something, you engage real members in what we call a proof of concept. We do it for 3 months, 6 months, sometimes it can be as long as a year. But it's okay to fail, and everybody understands that. That's what we're doing right now with artificial intelligence. So 6-7 weeks ago, we launched an internal service assistant because our members told us in their complaints that some of our team members in our front lines who have the toughest job in the world sometimes can't get answers fast enough, or they get inconsistent information if they go to a different channel. So we're going to try to use AI to solve that member problem. And that member problem is they don't need to go read an SOP to get the answer. Can they just ask the chatbot that's already learned from the SOP? 6 weeks in, I got my first report back on the data, and every time a team member asks a question, they are asked, was it helpful or was it unhelpful? 81% helpful. I think that's great. Still 19% not helpful, right? So that's good to know. But I also tell everybody, this team member, this AI chatbot, is just 6 weeks old. So that's pretty good if you consider that. Some people in my organization are like, hey, let's go right to, let's launch it to everywhere right now. I'm like, no. That's not how this is going to work because, as you know, I wish I had the picture, but I'll give you a visual, then I'll pass it on. I went trying to be cheap, trying to be economical. You know how you get headshots professionally done? I saw this thing on Instagram, and it said, hey, you can just upload a couple of pictures, and we can create headshots of you, for like $3. And I was like, great. That's way better than $200 with a photographer. I do this, and what comes out is essentially a Mexican Kevin Martin. All of a sudden, I had hair that was flowing I've never had before. I was like, what's going on, right? And so it just goes to show you that it's just a technology. It still has a lot to learn. But, I had locks for the first time. So.
That's great. And so, but, it's important that 19-20% difference, right? Great tactic to start it internally, right? Your folks can help it, and also we'll learn from it. But more importantly, we have one of the things they teach us at AWS is there's two-way door decisions and there's one-way door decisions. Most of us are empowered to have the two-way door decision. That means, similar to your mistake comment, right? Make the decision. If it doesn't work, you could turn around back. No big deal. One-way door decisions are the ones you can't turn back, right? And that's up the chain, right? That's where the executive leadership, the CEO, because they will make a decision and go in one direction, and it's very hard, if at all, to turn it back. So that's important to build that in the culture, especially around these technologies. Chad, what have you been hearing around the grapevine over the last 4 months since the paper was published?
Yeah, thanks, George. Good morning, folks. for those of you've heard me speak before, I often say that this is a transformative technology, generative AI. You're creating something new, and how do you control that? How do you regulate that? How do you monitor that? And there's an interesting news article that came out in February this year that dealt with generative AI and Air Canada. How many folks in here are familiar with using chatbots, or even consider deploying chatbots for your website at your credit union, right? A lot of hands. This is around that. So Jake Moffat, his grandmother passed away, and he was traveling from Vancouver, I believe, to Toronto. And he went on the website and he engaged with a chatbot. And the chatbot by Air Canada was allowed to use generative AI, so it was generating content. This means that they wouldn't necessarily know what it was going to say all the time, but they had a general sense of it. In the chat, it was a bereavement request. And in the bereavement request, Jake said, hey, I need to get this flight right now. I need to get to Toronto. Can I get a credit when I land? And the chatbot said, oh, yeah, sure. We have a 90-day policy. As long as once you land, you go ahead and submit it within 90 days, you're fine. We'll reimburse you. Well, that wasn't the policy of Air Canada. The chatbot generated policy on the spot. Yeah, and Air Canada, and because of that, there was a legal suit. So now this is becoming a very real thing. Air Canada said, yeah, we're not giving you your money back. You should have read the terms and conditions. And Jake said, well, your chatbot said this was okay. I took a screenshot. Look, here it is. And they said, well, if you would have looked somewhere else on the website, you would have found that we wouldn't let you do that. And he said, well, who am I supposed to trust? Am I supposed to trust the chat, or am I supposed to look at the terms and conditions? And
they're going to lose that way.
Yeah, Air Canada's position was that's a separate legal entity from us. It's not part of us, and you shouldn't have trusted it. Now it gets really interesting, right? Well, who am I supposed to trust here? Yeah, so this is what we're starting to see in the practical application of this technology if you don't have oversight and if you're not careful. In the end, they ended up splitting the difference. Jake got back, I think, $600 out of a $1,600 ticket. And Air Canada said, we're just closing the issue. They've since pulled the chatbot from their website. It's not there anymore. You can't get to that particular version of the chatbot. And the CIO there said, it was an experiment. We'll try it again in the future. But this is what's really important to the point about the hype cycle, is that we're in a rush to try and use this technology without fully understanding what it can do. And this shouldn't just be a technology thing. This shouldn't just live in the realm of your digital folks. This is going to impact brand reputation. It's going to impact your members' experiences. It's going to have dramatic impact across the board. And nobody should be able to say, oh, that's a technology thing, let them deal with it. Everybody at the table should understand what this technology can do, because it's going to affect marketing, it's going to affect your ops people, it's going to affect your contact center people, it's going to affect everybody. So when you get to that point, when you're trying to do this, one, that the white paper is a great place to start. We put that together, and the idea was, let's not describe what technologies you need. Let's describe the kinds of things that you're going to want to think about and how to ask the right questions of your folks when they start to come to you and say, hey, we want to do this. You're going to need to know those questions to ask. So the generative AI white paper is a great place to start, but also just make sure that the conversation is something that's happening at a much broader space than just your digital folks.
That's great. Paul, when you sat with and worked with us on this paper, and we were trying to figure out the value that, what are the core values? We all agree that it's a tool, but the hype makes it more than that. And so where do you fall? What has happened since the last 4 months that has made it either change your opinion about it, made you more double down on it? Where are you sitting now 4 months out?
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, George. Continuing the hype cycle, let's see, this Grapevine is the Wall Street Journal. Headline is, how does AI think? We are only starting to understand that. OpenAI's CEO and tech chief on AI's future and how to navigate the tricky path forward. And somebody named Eric Schmidt says, how can we control AI? The technology's rapid advance threatens to overwhelm all efforts at regulation. We need our best tech experts competing to rein in AI as fast as companies are competing to build it. Okay, so Audience participation, show of hands. And I'm going to expand this. It's not just about members, it's also about employees because they're going to be affected too. Who in the room thinks that either members or employees care about AI at our credit unions? Show of hands. Okay. I see hands going up slowly. I'm going to tell you that I agree with you. And if you don't think they do now, I assure you they all will very soon. And on that basis, you know, I'm reminded about, and I'm on the director side, so a little minority in the room here. I'm reminded about Rumsfeld saying, there's what we know, there's what we don't know, and then there's what we don't know, which has me concerned. This, which we've referred to, this white paper, is a great resource. I encourage you all to download it. It's available on the MSA website. A lot of bright people and me contributed to this, both about core values and thinking about governance. I can tell you about governance at my little institution. We partner with our CEO and his great team talking about things like demand for services, about ransomware, and I think this AI is just the new version of the conversation that has to happen at the board table with the executive team. We've spent time talking about those other things, and we're about to spend time talking about AI this year.
That's great. And I want to ask one more question to the panel, but I want to make a couple of observations. First off, if anyone says, and it's interesting because Schmidt was talking about it, if anybody says that they're an expert on AI, buyer beware. I can't comprehend how anyone can be an expert on AI. We have no idea what these systems are doing. They're so complex. So that's the first time. Now, interestingly enough, like when Bitcoin came up, everybody was a Bitcoin and blockchain expert. Now we have a bunch of AI experts. I will say this, every one of you is more of an expert on what you can expect from AI or what you want from AI than most of the politicians and technologists out there. Because at the end of the day, we're all being impacted by the technology. So we have to set that bar, right? We got to go out there and set that bar. I know we talked about a couple of scary headlines here and the some of the negative consequences, but I'd like for each one of you to give a positive outlook on this technology, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years out, and what do you recommend every individual here, whether they're a CEO, a board member, or someone who's working on the front lines at a credit union, what should they be doing in respect to AI and generative AI particularly?
As a strategist, I always start with what's the objective we're trying to achieve? And I think if you start there, the objectives that we're looking at are how do we get members' answers faster? How do we help team members to be able to process more effectively? And how do we also protect our members' assets more effectively? And I think that AI will be able to help with all three of those. I think it can take you from 0 to 40, maybe 80%, and then you could, as a human, take it the rest of the way. I think that it allows you to consider different angles you hadn't. The concern is always when you put too much trust in it and you think it's going to go from 0 to 100 and now you don't need any oversight. Again, it's just a computer. That's all it is. It might be a really nice computer and be very helpful, but still just a tool. You wouldn't let the hammer, build your kid's playhouse without your oversight, right? You need to be there to give direction, to set parameters, to set boundaries, and to make sure that the outcome that you want is actually created. So,
Chad?
Yeah, that's good feedback, Kevin. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is a transformative technology. In 2007, when Steve Jobs stood up on the stage and held up the phone and said, this is going to change everything, we all kind of went, okay. And then now every single person in this room has one of those devices in their pocket. Maybe two, maybe three. This is the adoption rate of this is exponentially faster than that technology was. This is going to change the way that we do business. So there's a responsibility to understand it. And my one thing would be, I think it's a fantastic tool, and we should all be learning about it because it's going to impact not only the folks that we work with and the members that we work for, but it's going to impact us in our own careers in the future. People who understand this technology and understand how it can be used are going to have an advantage. So as a credit unions, this is a wonderful time because we are such a community-based group that if we collectively start to look at this technology, we can have an advantage. And everybody, regardless of your position in the organization, should take some time. And this stuff is out there. It's readily available for a lot of us. It's free. And if you want to pay, it's a few bucks a month to get to understand how this can actually change the lives of our employees and our members.
Paul?
Okay. Did I mention that you might download this for free off the website? Because if I didn't, you should download this for free off the website. A lot of smart people and me put a fair amount of time in, and I will tell you, it's comprehensive, it's readable, it's usable, and it's a good basis for discussion. All right. Yes, it's 75 pages. This is just the cover sheet. I think this is an opportunity. I think it's an opportunity to have an advantage, but most importantly, whoever just said yes. I think it's really an opportunity for us to demonstrate and live the credit union difference, and that's ultimately what we're here for.
Okay, and I want to leave you with one thought. How many can hear me? Can you hear me okay? No? Okay. So, think of generative AI and AI as a tool to amplify your employees' skills, knowledge, okay, without much effort, right? They learn it. If I go like this is what I'm doing. But if I'm talking, it amplifies. That's what this tool is at the end of the day. Don't think about it to replace folks. Don't think about it efficiency. Yeah, we want to be more efficient, but airlines are efficient. You know, what's the customer experience on that, right? So, excuse me, think about it as a tool to amplify your values, your skills, your mission, okay? And as long as you keep that into context, remember, and I tell this to my teammates at AWS, this is the one technology that everyone is using. When I speak with a CEO, the CEO is using generative AI. When I speak to an engineer, they're using generative AI, your customers, your employees. So think about the fact that this is not something that's out of scope. You have to participate, you have to engage so that you can have a formed opinion. So with that, I pass it back to Brandy.
Thank you so much. Excellent job, you guys. Thank you.